Today we're going to talk about the quarterback play in the Big 12. I'm not necessarily going to dive into kind of rankings. I think we have somewhat of a pecking order already with Spencer Rattler being at the top, Brock Purdy probably being number 2, and then 3 through 5, 3 through 6 can be kind of argued and for several different guys, whether it's Max Duggan, Spencer Sanders, whoever it may be. And we're going to talk about the guys returning a bit more than the quarterback kind of competitions. So like Baylor and Kansas, we're not going to spend much time on. Whoever wins those competitions, they're probably going to start at the bottom of the Big 12, but could potentially work their way up. Kansas State, we're not going to spend a lot of time on either. Of course, they got Skylar Thompson coming back. He was injured last year, but he is returning. They also have Will Howard, who got a lot of playing time as well. So that quarterback room is kind of set, right? You know what you're getting from Thompson. Howard was young last year, but has some potential to develop. And then, of course, we have the Texas room, whoever wins that competition could very well be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, regardless who it is, whether it's Hudson Card or Casey Thompson. For the fact we don't have a ton of game film on them, I'm not really going to talk too much about that. We've had other videos about the Texas quarterback room, but just because I'm not going into detail doesn't mean I don't think they're good, because whoever wins that competition could be number 2 or number 3 as far as quarterback goes in the Big 12. And then, of course, we have Tyler Shuck, the transfer from Oregon to Texas Tech. And I don't have a ton of film on him as well, but he's someone who we've seen projected already as being a draft guy potentially. He did some good things at Oregon, so he could be a good quarterback for Texas Tech, and he could be very well thrown right into that 3 through 6 range in the Big 12. So I want to make sure we touch on those quarterback competitions or those quarterback rooms as well before we dive into the actual video. So I want to kind of go through briefly and talk about Spencer Sanders, Spencer Rattler, Max Duggan, Jarrett Dagey, and then of course Brock Purdy. So those are the few guys we're going to touch on and kind of talk about their style of play and what they bring. But just because the other guys we don't have video on doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of potential as well. They're just not returning starting quarterback. So anyways, let's go ahead and dive into the actual video. But before we do, I want to encourage you to just consider subscribing to our YouTube channel if you like any quarterback breakdowns, just quarterback content like we're doing today, whatever it may be. Any quarterback content is fair game here, and we will see you at the back end of the video. So Spencer Rattler, the quarterback for OU, is undoubtedly the number 1 quarterback returning for the Big 12 in 2021, and doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be the number 1 quarterback after the season, but I think it's probably safe to say that that is the case right now. Only been starting for 1 year, so we want to see what he can do and see him build. And from his first starting year, we're going to see some of these clips that show his ability to push the ball downfield. We're also going to see his ability to run as well. Good job looking through the pocket. Steps upfield right here. So just showing some ability to run and throw. And we have a video and, of course, a greater detail of Spencer Rattler if you are interested in kind of seeing our full breakdown. But 28 touchdowns last year, only 7 receptions, 6 rushing touchdowns, showing the ability to use his legs when he needs to. And also to scramble the pocket. Like you see right here, this is a good example of him using his legs here. This is the game against TCU, obviously. There's another clip from that, but he does a good job throwing off balance, going off script when he needs to. That's a great play right there. So yeah, obviously for anyone keeping up with potential NFL draft talk, he is the potential first quarterback taken off the draft board, and of course the number 1 quarterback in the Big 12 and potentially all of college football. Good throw there from the left hash to the right side of the field on that slant route. So again, we just want to see if he can build off from his 2020 season and continue to progress. But Spencer Rattler, number 1 quarterback in the Big 12 right now. Excuse me, sorry about my voice. So next we got Brock Purdy, who again, like Rattler, we put out a detailed breakdown of him, but his biggest thing is to just take what the defense gives him. When he does that, he's a successful quarterback, especially his sophomore year starting in 2019 was probably his best year so far in college football. Put up his best numbers. Did a good job taking what the defense gave him and didn't try to do too much. When he gets in trouble is when he's really trying to do too much and trying to make plays when something's not there and really force the ball. There's a good ball there, deep out. But again, he needs a big year here, I think, to And well, of course, Iowa State wants him to have a big year, but just for the draft projections, of course, he would like to have a big year to help that status. The thing I want to see improvement on for next year, even though I just said I want him to take what the defense gives him, is push the ball downfield a bit more accurately. He went from his freshman year, he was 10.2 yards per attempt, sophomore year 8.4, and last year 7.5, which isn't a bad number necessarily, but you'd like to see him probably over that 8 for a quarterback like Brock Purdy, as long as it is within the offense. So again, one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, number 2 right now, and potential to get better and better, can make throws on the run or in the pocket. So here's a guy I like a lot, and if you watch the TCU video, you probably heard me speak pretty favorably of Max Duggan, the TCU quarterback. I think he does a lot of good things well. Like that play right there that we just saw, standing in the pocket, taking a hit, delivering a deep out from the right hash to the left side of the field, is an impressive throw for me. And like a lot of these Big 12 quarterbacks we're talking about, 3 through 5 or 6, or even honestly, anyone after Rattler, that we're talking about, from Brock Purdy, Max Duggan, Spencer Sanders, Jarret Doege, are similar quarterbacks, and they have a lot of upside. They just need to take that next step. And I think Max Duggan is the perfect example of that. His ability to run and throw and stand within the pocket. He does a good job taking hits within the pocket as well, which we will see more and more. He's been the starting quarterback for the past 2 seasons for TCU. Dealt with some injuries and had a scare last year with some COVID stuff, but was able to play, which is great. He has 25 total passing touchdowns in his 2 years starting, 16 total rushing touchdowns. He has a good clip showing his athletic ability right here. And he's had 500 yards rushing in both seasons. His kind of biggest things to me that shows he's still developing and still has improvement to come is his yards per attempt went from 6.1 in 2019 to 7.5 in 2020. His completion percentage went from 53-ish in 2019 to 60 in 2020. So I think he can really take the next step and continue to develop. He does a good job, leading his team. So again, Max Duggan, a lot of upside, a lot of potential, and could have a very big year for TCU. But again, I think he's someone who's coachable and has that potential there. And next guy is Spencer Sanders, the quarterback for Oklahoma State, who, like all these quarterbacks, has done some really good things for Oklahoma State and also has some head-scratching throws. I think when healthy, a dynamic athlete, can really hurt you with his legs, and has a good arm too. His biggest thing is whenever he has faulty mechanics, which happens, off and on for him, is when the ball kind of floats and the arm strength isn't as strong as it really is. So he does have a strong arm, in my opinion, but whenever his mechanics kind of falter and he throws off his back foot or drops his shoulder, the ball kind of floats on him a bit. But again, a 2-year starter at Oklahoma State. He's had 30 passing touchdowns, only 4 rushing touchdowns. Had a lot of rushing yards his first year starting, over 600, and last year just over 200 in the COVID year. Kind of an interesting stat is both, at least according to the website I got the stats from, in 2019 and in 2020, he was 155 for 247 both years, which I found kind of funny there. But again, dynamic athlete, when his mechanics are on point, is obviously when his balls tend to come out better and he's able to spin it a bit more. If he takes that next step, there's a good run right here by him. Makes the guy miss. Sorry for interrupting. This is his example of being a dynamic athlete here. That's a great play right there. So he has the athletic ability. He has the talent to be a good quarterback, and not just a good quarterback, but one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12. It's just to see you got to take that next step and be a bit more consistent. If he does, Oklahoma State will be really good next year. That will remain to be seen. But nonetheless, you have to like what that potential that is there. All right, last quarterback we'll kind of go into detail is Jarret Doege for West Virginia. I don't know if I think it's a combination of the offense and just not pushing the ball downfield. That's kind of my biggest thing. We want to see them push the ball downfield a bit more. His yards per attempt were in the 6s. We kind of want that to at least be in the 7s in today's day and age of college football. But he does do a good job playing within the offense. You see a nice little scramble right there, so has some mobility when needed. But he does a good job playing within the offense and taking what the defense gives him, which does lead to sustained drives and eventually leads to touchdowns and scores. He does a good job taking care of the football as well, last year in 2020. Excuse me, he only had 4 interceptions, and 2 of those interceptions actually came in the game against Baylor. Excuse me, the clips that we are watching right now. But I think he does a good job taking what the defense gives him. I would like to see the ball pushed downfield a bit more. If that's the case, and I think not just the offense, but Jarrett Doege could really take that next step as a quarterback here. But regardless, talented quarterback, kind of in that middle tier quarterbacks for Big 12 with the potential to take the next step in 2021. Again, Jarrett Doege from West Virginia. So again, we didn't break down Tyler Shuck or the Texas quarterbacks who whoever wins that competition. And Tyler Shuck, they could be up there in the top few quarterbacks in the Big 12. Baylor and Kansas still has a competition going on. And then, of course, Kansas State has Skylar Thompson returning and Will Howard. But I think all the quarterbacks are very similar to the guys we talked about as far as it relates to showing some good things, having potential, having some upside, but being a bit inconsistent and just wanting to take that next step. So I think overall the Big 12 is in a good place. Isn't a good place moving forward as far as it relates to the quarterback situations and quarterback rooms. It's just, can they take that next step? If 3 or 4 of those guys take the next step, then you could see some really good play in the Big 12 in 2021. But that's the video. Please consider subscribing, like the video, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Who do you think should be? What do you think the ranking is? I know I didn't do necessarily a ranking, but I kind of put them in a little order of kind of how I think they are. So let me know if you like that order. Let me know your ranking, and we'll see you next time on our next quarterback-related breakdown.